The fact that the climatic conditions on our planet are rapidly changing and the reasons behind these drastic changes are all very known to us. But to make us understand the specific climatic changes and in our country is I'm sorry, in our country is taken against these changes as well as the steps the youth of our country can take to prevent them. Today, we have with us Mr. Tanmay Takle. Mr. Takle is from the Department of Environment and Climate Change, Government of Maharashtra, where he implements regional climate action initiatives and international partnerships. He has pursued his bachelor's in renewable energy and sustainable development from the University of Illinois and his MSc in Sustainable Management from Columbia University. He is currently also a Youth Advisory Council member at WSP USA, working with the Climate Resilience and Sustainability Leadership team. And today he will be giving us an insight on the topic climate action in India and role of youth. I would now like to invite Tanmay sir to take the event forward.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. Before I start, I'd just like to say thank you for giving me this platform to speak about climate change as a youth. Given that my generation really has strong opinions about it, it is nice to also be heard. And I hope that whatever I say sparks a meaningful, insightful discussion. I haven't prepared a presentation, but I have decided to talk not about India and climate action, but rather scale it down a little bit and talk about Maharashtra and climate action, rather specifically what the government of Maharashtra is doing. And I have been working there for the last few months. And in that time, I have been able to firsthand work on a lot of initiatives and take part in these to see the true impact of what we could achieve. And I do have to start off by saying I'm not here as a spokesperson of the government. I am just here as a youth who's studying and working in the field and who started off fresh. Just a note, in case my internet just drops out a little, do send me a text and I'll join from my phone.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so since I've started working here in the last few months, and even before that, especially since we had the new elections in Maharashtra in 2019 and the announcement of a new cabinet, we've had a large resurgence in political will to tackle climate change, which is something that is really key. We keep talking about governments need to do this, businesses need to do that. But the fact is that if you don't have the political will, a lot of this stuff just wouldn't be possible. So the cabinet minister for environment and climate change is pretty active in this field, and he does care about these issues, and he is committed to addressing them. And in my experience working with him, it has proven to be authentic, definitely, which I'm glad for. So I'm going to run you through a few of the initiatives that we are doing. And to start off, I'm going to talk about something called the Maji Vasundhara Abhiyan, or My Earth Mission, which the Department of Environment and Climate Change has started. And we just finished our first year of it today, and the winners were announced. So not it's a different local bodies in Maharashtra, from the smallest gram panchayat to the largest division. So we have special, I guess, categories in which different nagar panchayats, municipal councils, municipal corporations, and the gram panchayats kind of compete against each other. And we've provided a toolkit which goes over the specific steps that these local bodies can take at an institutional and an individual level. And the toolkit is divided across 5 areas. It's earth, air, water, energy, and awareness. But under these, I guess the areas relating to climate change that we are attempting to cover are waste management, biodiversity, and of course, ecosystems have been placed a huge focus on, in interest on RA and environmental conservation. Along with that, we focus on air quality monitoring. We focus on, in the water section, we focus on rainwater harvesting and rainwater percolation. What steps are these local bodies taking to work on these initiatives? In energy, we focus on how many green buildings have come up recently and what the local bodies are doing to promote these green buildings. And very importantly, we also focus on clean mobility, specifically electric vehicles, and what has been done to promote those. And since awareness is a huge part of it, we also evaluate these bodies based on what they have done to kind of make their citizens aware and act on these things. So I'm going to go over the impact that we have managed to achieve in just a year of running it. And the impact report was released today, and you'll be able to read it in the news and even find it online. But under this, all over Maharashtra, we have managed to get 21.94 lakh trees planted and produce 1.27 lakh tons of compost. 43 of our participants have participated in air quality monitoring mandated by the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change by the Government of India. There have been over 5,000 rainwater harvesting facilities implemented all over the state, 1,455 additional rainwater harvesting percolation pits, and about 775 water bodies from the smallest streams to large rivers have been cleaned. In energy, we've made some large strides, and a lot of our emissions cut has come from that sector, obviously. We managed to put about 12.23 lakh LED lights all over the state under this, about 70,000 solar lights, and 736 biogas units in rural areas, 701 solar pumps in rural areas, 104 charging points for electrical vehicles in the state, 130 green buildings certified. And the awareness part was huge, which was overwhelming. We've managed to, under this, incentivize everyone to, I guess, have 18,000 awareness events almost. So the benefits of this have been huge, and I've spent the last 2 days just being really hopeful about the whole climate narrative after looking at this. Through this coordinated effort, we've managed to essentially abate about 370,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions, which I know that intuitively it doesn't make sense even to me, but to put it into perspective, it's the amount 1.7 crore trees would absorb in a year. And this is just what we've managed to achieve in a year. And it's a huge, huge feat, which the ministry has taken up and administered really well. I played one very small part in it. But aside of this, there are a lot of other initiatives that we are currently working on, we are planning on, and which we will be doing, some of which have been announced and out to the media, some of which will be announced soon. But I'm going to run you over them and then explain how these all connect. And finally, I will get to what role do youth like you and I have to play in here, because it is a huge one. Alongside these initiatives, we are also set to get a state action plan on climate change. Again, it's mandated by the central government, and we have one already, but we're updating it and getting a new one. In that, we will focus on each district and the vulnerabilities that each district has, whether a certain district is more vulnerable to floods or more vulnerable to droughts or more vulnerable to any other such natural disasters, which you've seen in the last few years that have just increased a lot more. And then we will be giving sectoral strategies to address these vulnerabilities within these districts. And by sectoral strategies, I mean, what can the energy sector, what can the energy ministry do to help this transition? What can the transport ministry do to help this out, whether it be through an EV policy or whether it be through certain action points which they mandate down? We're trying to essentially coordinate all these efforts. And this plan will come out soon. And the first one is already out. It was in 2014, but the update should be done soon, which is one thing that I'm working on. In addition, we have recently in the process of joining an international coalition called the Under 2 Coalition, which is I think it is the largest state-led coalition, which commits to these states coming together saying, we're going to do our bit to keep the Paris Agreement intact and keep it to the 2 degrees Celsius goal. In my opinion, honestly, it's a very tall target. We have a long way to go. But under this, we are mandated to do a greenhouse gas emissions inventory, which means we take and map out all the emissions that come from the state. And then over the years, we come up with strategies to reduce them. And even if we don't reach our goal, we'll still get closer to it through these ways. So I think something is better than nothing. And that's, I guess, the thought behind it. In addition, we also had a new electrical vehicle policy come out recently, which is going to get approved by the cabinet soon. You might have read about it in the media, and a really wonderful think tank has worked with us on that. Following that, going down even smaller, BMC is set to get its first climate action plan soon, which is currently working on. The minister announced it, I think, a couple of months ago, and the work for it is in full swing and hectic. But this comes as part of an international agreement that the minister has signed with a network called C40 cities. So the C40 cities is a network of, I guess, 12.5% of the world GDP, leading cities like New York and New Mexico and LA and London and the likes, which get together to adhere to very strict climate standards, reduce their emissions, and come up with climate action plans. So as part of this, BMC this would probably be the first C40 approved climate action plan for not just a city in Maharashtra, not just in India, but all of South and West Asia, if I'm not wrong. Um, Aside of that, there are a lot of other events that we focus on. Going back to Maji Vasundhara, right now we just focus it on local bodies, which is the municipal corporations, councils, Nagar Panchayats, and Gram Panchayats. But now the program is going to expand to incorporate corporates, non-profits, educational institutes, and basically anyone who kind of wants to partake in that. And what we are doing is something that personally gives me a lot of hope, and firsthand as someone who is very eco-anxious, who's very worried about where we're going with our future, and who is a little too tired as a youth of having the older generation put the burden of the solutions on us, but without giving us a voice on the table. I think that these things are really hopeful, and I think a lot of youth like you and I will be able to get involved in this. And one thing I have to say about all this, that across all the organizations that we're working with, let it be consultancies, think tanks, nonprofits, youth do happen to make a large part of it. I personally work with a lot of environment officers in multiple cities in Maharashtra, and even even their youth counterparts are very enthused about doing this, and I guess the kind of dedication I get to see from them is something that gives me a lot of hope. This is actually in relation to another huge announcement which the minister announced, I think a month or two ago, which is leading cities from Maharashtra, especially those with a population of over 1 million, are pledging as we speak to go net zero by mid-century. Again, as a radical youth, I don't think the net zero by mid-century target is aggressive enough, but again, it's a step in the right direction, which we do need to take. But through this, it's not just a pledge which the commissioners sign and then it gets in the media, and then we kind of go forward, move on with our lives as if nothing happened. But through this, these cities have to do a greenhouse gas emissions inventory. They have to work with these international consultancies, think tanks, and organizations on reducing those greenhouse gas emissions inventories. And again, it's a start, and maybe 10 years down the line, it goes a very different way to what I'm currently hoping. But again, we needed that start, and we have got that. So what's the role of youth in all of this? That's a great question. I think youth care more about doing something for this issue, and we're way more frustrated when it comes to tackling this issue than anyone else. And I'm not here for thought leadership. I'm just here for a call to action to everyone, is that we can take individual steps through our personal lives to affect this change on a large scale. But too often it just gets lost in the grand debate between individual and institutional action, because large organizations will say, oh, till the consumers change their behavior, there's nothing we can do. Till you change your lifestyle, there's nothing we can do. We're just being guided by the hand of the free market or whatever. But and the individuals say, oh, till the organizations don't change, what can we do? And both sides have valid points. Ultimately, it's about 100 organizations that are responsible for over 70 or 80% of the world's emissions. And I think a large part that has come to a lot of climate action being stifled, not just in India, but worldwide, has been the discourse surrounding it. We're lucky that we live in a place like India where climate change is not politicized and people believe it. I'm glad to see we have about 200, more than 200 people here who all agree that climate change is a thing, which is not something very many first world countries have had in my experience. And that's something great. We believe in science and we already want to work on these. But the question is, how do we do that? So as a youth, I would say the first thing you can do is what everyone says. Start by having a conversation. Start by talking about it with your parents, with your grandparents, with your friends and everything. And I would say this, while activism is important, you need to keep an eye out for advocacy too. Being an advocate is probably going to cause more change than activism, because an activist, you can just be ignored and just shunned out of the table for being too radical. But when you actually engage and empathize with these organizations as to why they're not taking steps to implementing climate solutions, then when you actually get to see things from their point of view is when you'll be able to see what can they actually do, rather than just setting big targets like, hey, oil companies, just keep it in the ground. We need to understand that they have an economy that's dependent on them too, and how can we play an active part in kind of shaping that. And that really plays a lot with my personal experience, because again, I'm a young guy, I'm obviously going to be critical of the government always, but and I was and I still am, I will continue to be. But after I've started working here, I've actually understood firsthand what are the barriers to implementing a lot of climate solutions. And I think a lot of youth need to understand, empathize, and engage with these perspectives. It's true, we need to reduce our personal consumption of fuel or change what we eat and all that. But and look at the key institutional barriers in whatever organization you are, whether you are in the place in a company, an MNC where you work, or whether you're in a non-profit, or whether you're even in an educational institute. You can all play your own parts in addressing this issue. And I guess to close off, I want to say that the biggest thing that youth in this space can do is change the discourse just a little bit from, I guess, hopelessness and alarmism to more solutions oriented approaches. And once you kind of start doing that, then engage with all these organizations. There's wonderful organizations like Ra, wonderful organizations like RMI, and there's so many more I could name off the top of my head, but engage with them and be an advocate from the inside rather than just an activist who critiques from the outside. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your work with us. It was truly inspiring. All of us are very grateful for your input and advice. I would now ask everyone to please put their questions in the chat box.
Okay, so Tanmay, uh, can I uh, can I talk to you? I think
Yes,
can.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
I
Can
can
you
hear you.
stop? Yeah, you can hear me. Okay, so Tanmay, excellent thoughts, and I think everyone who's heard you is truly inspired. And what you said is absolutely right, that the youth have to take a very, very active part. And I think, reflections have to get converted to advocacy and action points. And what you very rightly said, the action points can be very small. And I always feel that charity begins from home. So, if this institution is our home, then I think every student who belongs to this educational institution should learn to start, talking about it, learning about it, sensitizing about it, and then, connect to learned people like you all who are also in lies with the government. And I truly feel that if there is a political will, there is a national will, to make a change. And if we also contribute in that direction, I think it is like 1 plus 1 making 11. So it's very easy to criticize, but I think if there is some positive concrete steps which are being taken, like you just updated us at the state government level, at the BMC level, I think these are very heartening things to get to know. uh, and yes, at least on behalf of this institution, I can commit that if you show us a direction as to how we can take small steps to contribute to a bigger cause, I think we'll be more than happy. So it has been really, really nice to have
Thank you
you
so much.
here and listen to your thoughts. Any other comments from anyone? I think it would be nice. Can we stop sharing the screen, please, so that all of us can look at each other? Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, hello,
Hello.
Tanmay. Tanmay, it was amazing. I mean, I suddenly found myself thinking about such a young guy. I really want to ask your age. It's not polite to do so now. Yes, your thoughts are very progressive and they are more mature than what your age can really reflect. So, congratulations. It's coming on from the heart and it's inspiring because you sounded so convinced about it. So I'm sure, as Dr. Madan said, our principal has said, we would like to be a part of some action that you can plan, and we would like to be a part of some activity that you can plan, and we would like to sustain that activity for a long time. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for motivating. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Rajeshri? I think you are the youngest leader which we have. Who can
No, I think Chetna ma'am covered, and you also covered it very well. The thing is, we always keep on blaming what is being not done, but somehow we don't analyze what are the things which are done and what are the limitations from other end. So rightly said, it's like putting our bit uh, with sincerity. Uh, Definitely, that will collectively have big impact on the green initiatives which we are looking forward to. So yeah, very good session. I think youth really agree when another youth is talking to them, and they understand it much better. So I'm sure this has created a lot of impact on the youth who is attending this session now. Yeah.
So Tanmay, if I ask you, what are the 3 action
Yeah.
points you can give, here to the institution?
To the institution, well, I think as Ashpreet ma'am said, definitely start off by educating your students about this better. And again, it's way easier said than done, but there are existing programs that do that. Engage with Climate Reality India, which is this nonprofit started by Al Gore, and they have specific training and materials for educationists like yourself, and they will train you on how to better communicate this issue to your students. You could also reach out to the state or national governments to see what they have going on in this case. And again, I get it, the state and national governments are not the best with the digital footprint, so finding stuff is hard. But on my end, I definitely will look to any opportunity that I feel is relevant for you, and I will get in touch with, I think, Dr. Rajshri about that. I guess the second action point would be to also maybe focus a little bit more on the key levers of climate change, while stuff like I guess afforestation is very important and very essential. We need to look at where the most carbon emissions are going to be, I guess, offset. And the one single central answer to that is energy. We have to look at our energy consumption, and we have to look at the centrality of energy to the climate crisis. And through this, you could, I mean, of course, the green I think the green audits that you're doing are definitely a right step in this direction. Another thing which I could encourage you to look at maybe is look at the possibility of having a campus action plan. So my undergraduate institution in the US did have one, and it managed to achieve some pretty interesting outcomes through the years. And it was done on a huge scale, and there was like a few $1 million put into it, obviously. And I get that institutes in India don't have that much funding, and it's just a too tall a task for us. But maybe through in-house, you could do it with the environment department or the urban planning departments that you have, or maybe you could even engage some consultants to do it pro bono if they're willing to. But come up with a climate action plan to achieve some specific outcomes that you want to increase your green cover around the campus by XYZ areas. You want to reduce your building energy consumption by XYZ percentage. And then that's where your green audits and energy audits come into play. And the fun thing about climate is that there's a lot of co-benefits. So all the initiatives that I mentioned the government is doing, we don't have to do separate work as part of each of these. All these are already kind of supported and strengthened with a lot of the national level stuff that is going on. So we have the National Clean Air Program, and that's focused on reducing air pollution, and it's mandated by the central government. But then I guess the cross benefits of this are what we find that BMC, for example, already has some level of work that's being done to these extent. Some cities in Maharashtra already have greenhouse gas emissions inventories done as part of this. Pune being a very notable one, and Pune is, for example, a very progressive city anyway. So they're really on top of this stuff. It's very cool. But these kind of things could be too. And I don't know if I covered 3 or 4, but I hope these were helpful.
Very nice. Armaiti, any comments from you? You can unmute, Armaiti, you're muted.
Yes. Yes. I was hearing, unfortunately, my net was so not so good, but to all the three speakers, it was an excellent session. And unfortunately, I belong to an industry which causes a lot of pollution. I belong to the textile industry where there is a lot of both energy guzzling, as he said, as well as a lot of pollution in the water. And to do our little bit, we have introduced a subject called as eco-friendly textiles, where we have introduced a lot of ideas and views. However, I would request all the speakers and both Ashpreet ma'am and Tanmay, and of course Arika ma'am is now with us, to pass on information where we can uh, connect with the when we have these bits of work which the government wants the industry to put in. If we could only help in being a bridge between the two, if the government is on one side and the industry is on the other side, and my children are going to enter the industry, see, they've understood what the SDGs are. They have understood what is right and what is wrong. But actually, when they go into the industry, there's a huge wall that comes, there's a wall that comes up. So if there are any ways in which we can connect these ideas with the industry and be a part of it, I would welcome any inputs from your end. And I'm sure we have 5 other departments. We have nutrition, we have resource management, which has hospitality as well as tourism. We have human development. We have all the departments you've heard from MC, Ms. Vipra. So if there are concrete inputs where we can be a link between that industry and whatever are the inputs the government thinks about, or what we can pass on or take back, we would welcome such a move.
So I think, yeah, thank you. I think it was just brilliant, Tanmay. Very, very nice.
As Almighty has said, even our even we teach interior designing, and even that particular area is extremely. I'm just giving.
You are muted. Nitya, you got
So
muted.
that, yes, ma'am, I just have to tell some. So even we create a lot of waste in terms of building waste, as we say. And from our side, we have started already an initiative which is creative upscaling, which is a part of our curriculum. And here we are not discarding things, but we make students scavenge things which are discarded, which could be put to use again. Okay, and we give it a new look, a more economic, a look which can fetch some economic benefit. You can sell it, you can create, you can recreate and use it in some space. So that's a small initiative from our side, and which has started very recently. But certainly we would like your guidance, all the experts here, on how we can make it more robust and more what to say, practical and more applicable on in our regular or day-to-day basis. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Rajashri, you can take it forward.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Thank you, all of you. I mean, HODs, you have given, like, put it very correctly and briefly about what are the needs from our end. Being stuck in to our regular curriculum, we are not really know how to connect. So I think Tanmay sir would definitely direct us and connect us with all such links, government initiatives where we can also put our bit in.
I'll try my best,
Yeah,
definitely.
sure. Yeah. And we are looking forward to associate with Ra Foundation as well as Ashprit ma'am. If you could also connect with certain technical initiatives which can be implemented in our college area or local areas, I think that would be of a great help. Yes. So, yeah.